Welcome back to the course on HRD, and we are in the process of knowing about the various HRD evaluation process. In the last episode, we discussed about human resource development audit, the difference between HR audit and HRD audit, the process, objectives, the benefits to the organization and the employees, and the companies which have implemented HRD audit as a part of their work process. Today's episode, we are going to learn about benchmarking, the different types of benchmarking as an evaluation tool, and balanced scorecard and its application in the HRD evaluation. Now, what is benchmarking? We have come across this concept in strategic management and management principles. It is a technique that uses quantitative and qualitative data to make comparisons between different organizations and different sections of the organizations. It is actually fixing up a standard and seeing whether and trying whether we can achieve that particular standard. So it may use quantitative and qualitative data. It is usually a continuous process through which organizations periodically measure, challenge, and improve their practices. So it is one of the methods by which best practices are adopted by the organization. Benchmarking is a term which is often used to describe performance assessment and which seeks to assess the competencies of the organization against the best in class. Usually, the performance outputs are defined in quantitative terms, in terms of financial performance, key financial ratio, measures of output, market. There are also more qualitative and less tangible features of performance which result on quality or satisfaction of customers. Assessment of these features is more difficult and it can only be done by direct observation or survey. Benchmarking should include both qualitative and quantitative measures of performance, and its emphasis should be on a continuous basis. There are two kinds of benchmarking: internal benchmarking and external benchmarking. Most of the organizations monitor their own performance in order to identify the change in the key business activities over time. They look at the performance of the organization as a whole and compare the performance of difficult individual teams or business units with each other. Performance monitoring is a continuous process and a very cumbersome process. Those with an interest in the organization's business will wish to compare the result over time in order to reveal the trends in the business performance of the company. This is the only way to discern whether performance is in line with the expectations or not. Part of this process will involve regular analysis of performance against target. Example, financial performance budget, sales budget, production achievement against target, sales targets, etc. External benchmarking is a process by which the performance of the organization is compared with that of other organizations in the industry. The organizations need to decide what activities or dimensions of the organization should be compared with others. Who are the other organizations that are to be compared with our organization? How information on other organizations can be obtained? If these questions are answered, external benchmarking can be done. But it is a time consuming process and it is hampered by the difficulty of obtaining relevant and pertinent information. There is also a problem of finding out comparable organizations to benchmark against. That's why most of the organizations wish to assess their own performance relative to their industry norms. They could do this with reference to the industry average based on the performance of the best performing organization. However, A danger in relying solely on the industry norm analysis is that the industry may itself perform badly. Obviously, the scope of cross-industry comparison will be more limited but could relate. For example, the employee cost or to research and development expenditure. Perhaps a good example of how to conduct benchmarking exercise comes from Xerox company. It has followed 10 steps according to a sequence. The first step is identification of what is to be benchmarked, identification of comparable companies, determining data collection methods and collect the data, determine current performance levels, project future performance levels, communicate benchmark results and gain acceptance, establish functional goals, develop action plans, implement action plans and monitor progress, and recalibrate benchmarks. Like general benchmarking, HR benchmarking is extremely important. When information on HR performance has been gathered, it must be compared to a standard, which is a model or measure against which something is compared to determine the performance level. For example, it is meaningless to know the organizational turnover rate is 75% if the turnover rates of comparable organizations are unknown. HR benchmarking compares specific measures of performance against data on those measures in other best practices organizations. HRD professionals are interested in benchmarking, trying to locate organizations that do certain activities extremely well and thus become the benchmark. HR benchmarking is useful for the following reasons. An organization can identify how its HR practices compare with the best practices. It helps organizations learn what type of HR practices work and they can be successfully implemented. They provide a basis for reviewing existing HR practices and develop new practices. They help managers to establish a strategy and set priorities for HR practices. Some of the common benchmark performance measures in HRD management are the compensation as percentage of net income before taxes, percent of management positions filled internally, rupee sales per employee, benefits as a percentage of payroll cost. Managers need to consider several things when doing benchmarking. They must gather information about internal processes to serve as a comparison for the best practice. To ensure the broadest information possible, managers should be careful to gather data from the companies both within and outside the industry. Benchmarking may actually limit a company's performance if the goal is only to learn and copy what competitors have done and not to consider various options to improve their processes. It is also important not to view examining recruitment practices also requires consideration of companies' emphasis on use of company staffing strategy. The information collected needs to be considered in terms of the context of the companies. Finally, benchmarking is an important part of improvement process. As a result, use of information gathered from benchmarking needs to be considered in the broader framework of organizational change. The next concept which we are going to concentrate as a part of the HRD evaluation process is the use of balanced scorecard concept as a tool for HRD evaluation. The balanced scorecard concept is a management and measurement system which enables the organizations to clarify their vision and strategy and translate them into action. The goal of balanced scorecard is to tie business performance to organization strategy by measuring the results in 4 important areas: financial performance, customer knowledge, internal business processes, and learning and growth. In 1992, an article by Robert Kaplan and David Norton entitled "The Balanced Scorecard Measures That Drive Performance" in the Harvard Business Review caused a lot of attention for their method and led to their business bestseller, The Balanced Scorecard: Translating Strategy into Action, published in 1996. The financial performance of an organization is essential for its success. Even non-profit organizations must deal in a sensible way with funds they receive. However, a pure financial approach for managing organizations suffers from two important drawbacks. It's historical. It tells us what has happened to the organization, but it may not tell us what is currently happening, nor it is a good conductor of future performance. The second drawback is that it is too low. It is common for the current market value of the organization to exceed the market value of its assets. Tobin's Q measures the ratio of the value of the company's assets to its market value. The excess value is resulting from intangible assets. This kind of value is not measured by normal financial reporting. The four perspectives of balanced scorecard, according to Robert Kaplan and David Norton, are financial perspective. How do we look to shareholders? Customer perspective. How do customers see us? Business process perspective. What must we excel at? Learning and growth perspective. Can we continue to improve and create value? This allows the monitoring of present performance, but the method also tries to capture information about how well the organization is positioned to perform in the future. Let us have a look at the benefits of balanced scorecard. The benefits of balanced scorecard are focusing the whole organization on the few key things needed to create breakthrough performance. Helps to integrate various corporate programs such as quality, re-engineering, customer service initiatives, etc. It breaks down strategic measures towards lower levels so that unit level managers and operators can see what's required at their level to achieve excellent overall performance. The financial perspective. Kaplan and Norton do not disregard the traditional need for financial data. Timely and accurate funding data will always be a priority, and managers will make sure to provide it. In fact, there is often more than sufficient handling and processing of financial data. With the implementation of corporate database, it is hoped that more of the processing can be centralized and automated. But the point is that the current emphasis on financial issues leads to an unbalanced situation with regard to other perspectives. There is perhaps a need to include additional financial related data such as risk assessment, cost benefit data, etc. in this category. The customer perspective. Recent management philosophy has shown an increasing realization of the importance of customer focus and customer satisfaction by any company. These are called leading indicators. If customers are not satisfied, they will eventually find other suppliers that will meet their ends. Poor performance from this perspective is thus a leading indicator of a future decline of the organization. Even though the current financial picture may seem to be good, in developing metrics for satisfaction, customers also should be analyzed. In terms of kinds of customers and of the kinds of processes for which we are providing a product or service to those customer groups is to be studied. The business process perspective. This perspective refers to internal business processes. Measurements based on this perspective will show the managers how well their business is running and whether its products and services conform to customer requirements. These metrics have to be carefully designed by those who know these processes most intimately. In addition to the strategic management processes, two kinds of business processes may be identified: mission-oriented process and support processes. Mission-oriented processes are unique processes and they revolve around the mission of the enterprise. Support processes are those processes which are repetitive in nature and it is easier to measure and benchmark. Generic measurement methods can be used to measure these support processes. Learning and growth perspective. This perspective includes employee training and corporate cultural attitudes related to both individual and corporate self-improvement. In a knowledge based organization, people are the main resource. In the current climate of rapid technological and economic changes, it is becoming necessary for knowledge workers to learn continuously. Government agencies often find themselves unable to hire new technical workers and at the same time show a decline in training of existing employees. Kaplan and Norton emphasize that learning is something more than training. It also includes things like mentoring, tutoring within the organization, as well as that of ease of communication among the workers to get ready help whenever it is needed. It also includes technological tools such as the internet. The integration of all these four perspectives into one appealing picture, is used as a management methodology. For each perspective of the balance scorecard, four things are monitored: objectives, the major objectives to be achieved; measures, the observable parameters that will be used to measure progress towards reaching the objective; targets, the specific target values for the measures. For example, 7% annual decline in manufacturing disruptions. Initiatives, projects and programs to be initiated in order to meet the objective. Organization results in each of these strategic areas determine if the organization is progressing towards the strategic objectives or not. For example, some firms have noticed that when survey results show a decline in employee satisfaction, several months later, there is a decline in customer loyalty and repeat sales from customers. Expenditure in employee leadership development training can be linked to lower employee turnover and reduced time to hire managers from outside of the organization. More than 60% of the organization claim to use a balanced scorecard approach. Firms like Verizon, Mayo Clinic, etc. have used their approach to align performance measures with their organization strategy. Using the balanced scorecard requires spending considerable time and effort to identify the appropriate HR measures in each of the four areas and how they tie to strategic organizational success. The balanced scorecard should align with the company goals and focus on the results. To be effective, the HR scorecard should address three elements: accountability, validity, and actionable results. However, regardless of the time and effort spent trying to develop and use objective measures in balanced scorecard, subjectivity in what is selected and how the measures are interpreted can still occur. The next tool for HRD evaluation is human resource research. Human resource development research is used to evaluate the HR practices and performance. Basically, there are two kinds of research: academic and applied. Academic research seeks answers to contribute to the existing body of knowledge, and application oriented research efforts are called applied research. For evaluating HR performance, applied research is conducted. There are 5 kinds of applied research in human resource development. Comparative approach. The research team compares its organization with another organization to uncover areas of poor performance. This approach commonly is used to compare the results of specific activities or programs. It helps detect areas of improvement in the organization. Outside authority approach. The research team relies on the expertise of a consultant or published research findings as a standard against which the activities or programs are evaluated. The consultant or research findings may help diagnose the causes of the problems in the organization. Statistical approach. From existing records, this research team generates statistical standards against which activities and programs are evaluated. With these mathematical standards, the teams uncover errors while they are still very minor. Compliance approach. By sampling elements of the human resource information system, The research team looks for deviations from laws and company policies and procedures. Through its fact-finding efforts, the team can determine whether there is compliance with the company's policies and legal regulations. MBO approach. In an MBO approach, the human resource research team can compare the actual results with stated objectives in the human resource area. Areas of poor performance are detected and reported. A number of research methods are available that can be chosen to suit the research objectives. However, most research is conducted by using one or more of the following methods. Interviews. Interviews, though time consuming, provides very valuable information. It refers to a face-to-face discussion with the managers and other employees to get information on a particular issue. The advantages of interview are: it provides an opportunity to verify information. Information relating to motivation and commitment can best be sought by interview. It provides an opportunity to explain. It's a two-way interaction and hence provides one opportunity to get in-depth information. Interviews of employees and managers offer research teams a powerful tool for collecting information about HRD activities and identifying areas that need improvement. Criticisms and comments from interviews can help pinpoint perceptions and causes that can form the basis for departmental action. Likewise, suggestions by managers may reveal ways to provide them with better service. When criticisms are valid, changes should be made. One useful variation of interview is exit interview. Such interviews are conducted when the employees decide to leave the organization. At this time, the employees can very openly discuss the problem, issues, and concerns because he or she need not be afraid of being reprimanded by the authorities. Some extremely useful information is gathered through exit interviews, which can be very handy in reviewing the HR policies, identifying training needs, and examining employee behavioral problems that are not easily identifiable. The second method is questionnaires. Since interviewers are taking time and spend a lot, often they limit to only a few people. The HR departments use questionnaires to broaden the scope of their research. Also, questionnaires may lead to more candid answers than face-to-face interviews. But being less costly, questionnaires provide an opportunity to collect from large amount of employees in short period of time, and they can be administered to a group. Questionnaires generally consist of a list of statement or items to which respondent responds by either saying yes or no or showing various degrees of agreement or disagreement. However, one major disadvantage of questionnaire is that it assumes that respondents can read and write in language used in the questionnaire. Again, there can be bias in understanding the concepts, and a few employees may be reluctant to ask the explanation for the questions or items included in the questionnaire and may fill out haphazardly. So, the basic intention behind the collection of questionnaires to improve the HRD system actually may fail because of questionnaires filled by people who do not properly understand the meaning of the questions or items asked. Secondary source of data is another method. Both interviews and questionnaires require human beings to provide information. If the focus of research is to collect historical data, perhaps the best source could be what is called as a secondary source. If data is available in published documents, government reports, journals and magazines, house magazines, industry reports, minutes of meetings, etc., such data can be extremely useful in examining the trends in terms of growth or otherwise. Needless to say, secondary source of data can be very handy method to collect specific information. Though the notion of measurement and evaluation of HRD function is still difficult. There are ways to do it. There has been a lot of research going on in this HRD field in the organizations which follow and do have a HRD. Students taking up HR projects in companies can try to focus on these topics of HRD evaluation so that they can gain greater insights into the working of the HR department and the HRD department. Thank you, and let me take leave to meet you again in the next episode with a new topic on human resource development. Bye for now. Bye for